There's something unsettling about a killer who doesn't stay dead, not in the metaphorical sense, not through flashbacks or haunting memories, but a man who is executed by the state only to return, empowered, malevolent, and invisible to the living. In The First Power, death isn't the end, it's the beginning of something worse. Released in 1990, this film slipped beneath the radar for many, dismissed as another low-budget supernatural thriller, but those who looked closer began to notice something off. The symbols weren't just decoration, the rituals weren't invented for screen effect, and the dread didn't stop once the credits rolled. What many viewers didn't know is that the film's director didn't rely on fiction to shape his world of demonic possession and occult resurrection. He immersed himself in real-world research, studying texts not from Hollywood archives, but from the actual Church of Satan. This wasn't creative inspiration, it was reference material, and some crew members weren't entirely comfortable with what he brought to set. The result was a film that feels like it knows more than it should, that lingers in your mind long after, not because of jump scares, but because it hints subtly, disturbingly, that some forces might be real and that the boundary between performance and invocation was never that solid to begin with. So, why was this movie largely forgotten? Why did certain scenes disappear from circulation? And why do some involved with the production refuse to talk about it? These are 20 weird facts you didn't know about The First Power, 1990, a film that might not have been entirely fiction. Fact Hassan, the director's research took a dark turn. The film wasn't supposed to be this serious. At first, The First Power was just a supernatural police thriller until director Robert Resnikoff decided to dive deeper. Much deeper. He reportedly spent weeks immersed in materials from the Church of Satan, not for shock value, but to capture the authenticity of demonic resurrection. Crew members later recalled that Resnikoff brought actual grimoires and ritual texts onto the set. He even consulted an unnamed occult researcher to ensure that the rites performed in the film mirrored what might actually work. Actors weren't informed of the real-world connections until much later, and some felt uneasy delivering lines that came straight from unedited rituals. One scene never released publicly involved a possession monologue that used untranslated Latin and a sigil drawn exactly as found in Anton LaVey's writings. That scene was reportedly destroyed after the editor's assistant refused to touch it, citing something wrong with the footage. Did Resnikoff believe in what he was filming, or was he just a meticulous craftsman who blurred the line too far? Whatever the answer, he never directed another feature film after The First Power, and he's never publicly explained why. Fact #2, a scene that wasn't in the script, and no one claims responsibility. There's a moment in The First Power just over an hour in where the killer appears in a church basement, whispering to a child. The lighting shifts, the camera lingers, and the whispering continues for almost a full minute. Here's the strange part. That scene wasn't in the original script, and no one remembers filming it. According to script supervisor notes, there's no version of the shooting schedule that includes a basement scene with a child actor. The actor playing the child was never credited. Sound engineers couldn't isolate the whisper's origin. It wasn't from the actor on set, nor was it dubbed later. When asked in a rare Q&A, star Lou Diamond Phillips reportedly said, "I don't remember that at all. I wasn't even on set that day." Some fans believe the scene was spliced in accidentally from another project. Others say it was deliberately inserted by whom. No one knows. The fact that no one will claim it only adds to the film's growing list of unexplained insertions. Was it a prank, a production oversight, or something that wasn't supposed to be filmed in the first place? Fact #3, The Curse of Location #3. The film used over 20 locations across Los Angeles, but only one of them has since been sealed off and condemned. It's referred to in production notes simply as Location #3, a defunct boiler facility where a critical exorcism scene was filmed. According to multiple crew reports, equipment would fail consistently, batteries drained, lights burst, and one crew member reportedly suffered a seizure during a take. Resnikoff insisted on continuing. He believed the location gave the scene the kind of energy we couldn't fake, but post-production staff refused to re-enter the building for pickup shots. And here's where it gets stranger. When the city of Los Angeles finally condemned the location in 1994, the official record cited structural instability, but also noted reports of repeated unauthorized access, candle markings, and disturbances reported by local residents. To this day, the location's exact address remains redacted in studio archives. Some believe it was a former Masonic hall. Others think it was a condemned hospital wing. Whatever it was, no other production has used it since, and no one has tried to. Fact #4, the studio didn't want an ending this bleak. The original ending of The First Power was far darker and far more ambiguous than what audiences saw. In the version that aired, the killer is defeated, but the door is left open for his return. In the original script, however, the final scene was a nihilistic spiral. The protagonist realizes that he himself has become the new vessel unknowingly infected by the same demonic force he was fighting. Test audiences were reportedly disturbed by the ambiguity. Studio executives panicked. They demanded a reshoot that would end on something less hopeless, even if it meant betraying the film's internal logic. But the reshoots were rushed. Certain visual cues, like the protagonist's sudden nosebleed or his reflection acting independently in a mirror, were never removed. Fans noticed. The contradiction led to online speculation for years, with some arguing that the film did end the way the director intended just subtly enough to avoid studio backlash. To this day, there's no official confirmation of which ending is canon, and that uncertainty may be the most unsettling part of all. Fact #5. The lead actor asked to be cleansed after filming. Lou Diamond Phillips gave a committed performance as Detective Logan, but after the film wrapped, he requested something that startled even the press team. He wanted a spiritual cleansing. Not a publicity stunt, not for character research. A real ritual performed by a friend involved in indigenous healing traditions. In a radio interview years later, Phillips said, "I was having strange dreams, I felt. Followed. It might have just been stress, but I didn't want to take any chances." Sources close to the actor confirmed that the cleansing took place in his home, involved fire rituals and chanting, and that Phillips wouldn't speak about the details afterward. He never returned to horror after The First Power, shifting to action and drama for years. Some believe he took the role too seriously. Others believe something from the production followed him home. Fact #6. The static face that no one could explain. There's a single frame in The First Power, roughly 47 minutes, in that haunted editors more than anything else. It occurs during a fast transition scene where the killer's image is briefly overlaid with a burst of static. For less than half a second, a face appears in the interference, a face that doesn't belong to any character, actor, or crew member. At first, it was dismissed as a compression error, but on closer inspection, the face was clear, distinct, and unfamiliar. When the team went to remove it, they found no trace of the image in the raw footage. It was only visible after final rendering, and only on the master print. The studio ordered it left in, assuming most viewers would never notice, but fans did. Frame by frame breakdowns revealed that the face blinks, which shouldn't be possible in a static overlay. Was it a digital glitch, a visual prank inserted by someone in post, or something the film picked up along the way? No one knows. And the original master? It's missing. Fact #7. The poster was quietly recalled. If you find an original theatrical poster for The First Power, take a closer look. Specifically, at the lower left corner where early versions featured a faded symbol etched faintly into the background. That symbol, according to some researchers, matched a real sigil used in necromantic rituals, one tied to a specific rite involving reincarnation and possession. Religious groups caught wind of it just before the film's release. The Church of Satan denied involvement but acknowledged that the design bore uncanny similarities to material in obscure texts. The studio, hoping to avoid backlash, recalled the original batch of posters and released a sanitized version weeks later with the background scrubbed. Only a handful of the original designs survived, mostly in private collector hands. But some fans claim that even scanned versions of the first poster carry a strange distortion near the symbol, subtle warping of pixels, as if the design resists reproduction. Why was that detail included in the first place, and who approved it? To this day, no one has taken credit for the original poster design. Fact #8. The editor walked off the project without explaining why. Midway through post-production, the film's lead editor, an industry veteran with over a dozen credits, left the project abruptly. He didn't offer an explanation. He didn't finish his contract. He simply left a handwritten note on his desk and disappeared from the production. The note reportedly read, "I've done horror, but this doesn't feel like fiction anymore." Producers scrambled to find a replacement. Resnikoff refused to comment. Some speculated that the editor had a breakdown due to the film's violent content or chaotic shooting schedule. But here's where it gets weirder. The editor's later credits vanished. After The First Power, he never worked in Hollywood again. No interviews, no public appearances. His union profile simply went dark. Whatever he saw in the footage or believed he saw was enough to make him walk away from the industry for good. Fact #9. A real exorcist was brought on set twice. Most productions hire consultants. This one hired an exorcist. twice. During filming at one of the condemned locations, a crew member reportedly collapsed, muttering words in a language no one recognized. Medical staff were called. But so was a spiritual practitioner and ordained exorcist with ties to the local Catholic diocese. The exorcist was sworn to secrecy, but later told a journalist off record that something had been stirred. The first incident passed, but a second came weeks later, during a sound mixing session. Audio engineers working on one of the possession scenes claimed their equipment began replaying unrecorded voices in reverse. Reznikov, under studio pressure, allowed the exorcist to return. After a brief ritual involving salt, Latin prayers, and anointing of equipment, the anomalies stopped. Were the events real or mass hysteria? Skeptics remain unconvinced. But what other 1990 thriller needed an exorcist in both pre- and post-production? Fact Hassan 0. One stuntman refused to do the final jump after seeing something. Stunt performers rarely back out, but one did right before a critical rooftop sequence near the film's climax. The shot required the killer to leap from one building to another, a stunt rigged with full harness and safety nets. Routine. Until the stuntman abruptly walked off set, refusing to perform. His reason? He said he saw a shape waiting on the opposite roof. Not a person, not a crew member. Something that shouldn't have been there and that disappeared the moment others looked. Production scrambled to find a replacement. The second stuntman completed the shot, but reportedly asked for the footage to never be played back in his presence. He claimed the image on screen didn't match what he remembered jumping into. Was it just adrenaline? A hallucination? Or did something watch the scene unfold from beyond the frame? Whatever it was, the original stuntman quit the project that day and never returned. Fact Hassonon. The composer added a hidden layer of sound and denied it later. The soundtrack of The First Power is unsettling by design, ambient synths, discordant tones, layered pulses, but when audio engineers remastered the film for digital release, they discovered something buried beneath the main track, a low-frequency soundwave pattern, almost imperceptible to human ears. When analyzed spectrally, the pattern resembled a heartbeat layered with reversed vocal samples, none of which matched the official recordings. The composer, Stuart Copeland, denied adding it. "That's not mine," he said in an interview. "I don't bury subliminals, I build rhythms." Yet the source of the sublayer couldn't be traced to any known session, and it only appears during scenes involving possession or ritual. Was it an uncredited addition, a prank, or something captured unintentionally? The final mix still contains it. Headphones recommended if you're not alone. Fact Hasson 2. The handwriting in the film wasn't designed by props. In one scene, the killer leaves behind a notebook filled with cryptic symbols and phrases. Viewers assumed it was standard prop design until a linguistics researcher stumbled upon a still frame and recognized something strange. The script used in the notebook wasn't invented, it matched an archaic variant of Aramaic, used in early exorcism rites. When the production designer was asked about it, she appeared confused. The handwriting, she said, was submitted by an outside consultant, whose name she couldn't recall, only that it was provided through the director's contact. Further analysis revealed that some of the phrases translated to warnings. It speaks when you sleep and do not open the mirror twice. Why include real, ancient language tied to actual rites? Why wasn't the art team told what it meant? And why does no one seem to remember who wrote it? Fact Hasson 3. A minor character was played by someone with no acting credits, before or after. In one of the film's early scenes, a homeless man warns Detective Logan about a power that moves without shadow. The performance is chilling, too precise, too knowing. But when fans searched for the actor, they hit a dead end. The role is credited to a name that yields no other results, no IMDb profile, no agency listing, no prior or future work in film. Even casting records can't verify who played him. One theory suggests the actor used a pseudonym and worked under strict privacy, but others, including a former PA on set, claimed the man just showed up that day and seemed like he belonged. The most unsettling part? The lines he delivers weren't in the script. They were improvised and somehow foreshadow events that unfold later in the film, word for word. Did someone add him to the set? Or did the film, in its strange gravity, attract someone who simply knew what to say? Fact Hasson 4. The mirror shot that reflected something else. Mirrors are used throughout The First Power, often symbolizing the boundary between worlds. But one particular shot filmed in a decrepit apartment hallway continues to baffle editors. As the camera moves past a mirror, the reflection should reveal the cameraman or nothing at all. Instead, it shows a dark figure standing still, not visible in the physical hallway. The shot was kept because the editor assumed it was an unnoticed extra. When questioned years later, Reznikov said he didn't remember approving that version and that there shouldn't have been anyone on that side of the set. The frame was later analyzed. The figure doesn't match any known actor's build or costume. It stands motionless, almost featureless. But what's more disturbing is that its reflection seems to look directly into the lens. Was it a crew member? A trick of lighting? Or a moment the mirror caught something no one else could? Fact Hasson 5. A test audience member reportedly fainted. During one of the earliest test screenings, a woman in the third row fainted midway through a possession sequence. Not from gore, there wasn't much. Not from volume or fear. She said, when revived, that she felt pulled forward in her seat, like the screen had reached back and touched her. Paramedics were called. She was fine. But the test screening abruptly ended, and the studio quietly rescheduled future tests with stricter lighting and sound controls. What's curious is that this scene wasn't particularly extreme. No violence, just chanting, cymbals, and that low-frequency hum embedded in the mix, the same one Copeland denied, creating. To this day, the specific scene hasn't caused any further incidents, but it was never altered, never removed, and no explanation has been given for what might have caused her to collapse. Was it coincidence, or was the scene doing exactly what it was designed to do? Fact Hasson X. The production lost 2 full days of footage without a technical explanation. It started as a simple review session. The assistant editor went to load footage from day 12 scenes shot at a crumbling hotel downtown, but the tapes wouldn't play. Backup reels wouldn't mount. Drives returned empty file structures. 2 full days gone. The team assumed hardware failure, but here's where it veers into the surreal. No damage was found on the storage devices, no corruption, no accidental erasure, just nothing. As if the data had been wiped clean without ever being touched. Insurance covered the loss, and reshoots were ordered. But Reznikov was reportedly shaken. One crew member later said he muttered, "That place didn't want to be recorded." Years later, digital forensic specialists attempted to retrieve even partial metadata from the drives. All they found was a single, time-stamped file titled simply, "Do Not Follow." Its contents? Just a black screen, with faint breathing. Fact Hasson 7. A priest was hired for set blessings and never showed up again. Early into production, tensions were already high. Lights failed without reason. Props went missing. So the producer, under advice from a crew member, invited a local priest to bless the primary sets. A simple ritual, nothing elaborate. The priest arrived, performed the blessing, and was thanked. He didn't accept payment, only saying, "This film is already being watched." After that, he vanished. The production attempted to contact him days later for another blessing at a secondary location, but the number had been disconnected. His parish said he hadn't worked there in years. The name he used didn't match any official registry. To this day, no one knows who he was or how he even arrived on set with full credentials and vestments. Was it performance? A con? Or someone who sensed something others couldn't? Fact Hasson 8. The prop Bible wasn't a prop at all. The film's exorcism scenes required a heavily worn Bible, aged, torn, soaked in wax, and burned along its edges. The props department prepared one, but when filming began, the director asked for a different book, one he had brought in himself. It wasn't marked as studio property. It wasn't cataloged. According to the script supervisor, it had handwritten notes in the margins, names crossed out, dates added beside certain passages. One passage, Psalm 91, was circled in red, with the words, "It hides inside safety," scribbled underneath. When asked about it in later years, Reznikov only said, "It was given to me by someone I trusted. That's all I'll say." The book was never seen after the final day of filming. The studio claimed it was lost during cleanup, but a former production assistant swears she saw the director take it with him wrapped in cloth, held tightly, as if it weren't part of the job, but something he couldn't leave behind. Fact Hassonen. The actor playing the killer refused to do interviews. Jeff Kober delivered a haunting performance as Patrick Channing, the executed serial killer who returns through demonic possession. His portrayal was praised for its intensity, but after the film's release, something strange happened. He disappeared from the press tour. Scheduled appearances were canceled. He declined every interview about the First Power, even years later. At conventions, when asked about the role, he simply deflects or walks away. Insiders say Kober's transformation during filming was visceral. One makeup artist described it as not method acting but something else. During scenes where he was meant to remain still, his eyes would flicker violently. In one take, The camera operator claimed that Kober wasn't looking at the lens but through it. There's no record of any conflict between Kober and the crew. No reported illness. No contractual gag order. Just silent. Why has the actor who brought the film's most terrifying presence to life never spoken publicly about it? And what exactly happened during those possession scenes that made him avoid the role ever since? Fact #20. The final shot might not have been the last. The film ends with a shot of the city skyline, ominous music fading, a whisper echoing in the distance. But according to early drafts and production memos, that wasn't meant to be the final moment. There was one last insert shot scripted. A close-up of the protagonist's eye, with the killer's reflection inside it. The scene was filmed. The footage exists, or at least it did. Multiple crew members confirmed its capture. It was slated for the closing frame, but at some point between post-production and theatrical release, the scene was pulled, no reason given, no backup listed. When questioned years later, the assistant editor replied with a cryptic line, "We didn't remove it. It removed itself." Whether metaphor or warning, the missing shot has become legend among horror collectors. Some claim it played in early screenings. Others believe it never made it out of the lab. But if the killer's face was really in that final eye, what would it mean for how the story ends? Or whether it ever did? Bonus fact, the sound that wasn't on the tape. During one of the final ADR, automated dialogue replacement sessions, something happened that no one could explain. Lou Diamond Phillips returned to re-record a line of dialogue from a rooftop scene. The room was sealed. The mic was tested. Recording began. Phillips read the line, "It ends with me," but when the audio engineer played it back, there was a second voice barely audible, layered beneath his, a whisper, slow and deliberate. It didn't match Phillips. It didn't match anyone. The line had morphed into something else. "It ends with me," he said, and under it, clear as breath, "It doesn't." They scrubbed the equipment, changed rooms, restarted the session, but the voice returned always at the same word. Always the same response. Finally, they deleted the track and re-recorded the line in analog outside the studio, just to avoid using the same environment. The scene made it to the final cut. Clean, controlled. But in the earliest screener, VHS sent to internal reviewers before the final re-record, the whisper is still there. Faint, insistent, undeniable. The studio never acknowledged the anomaly, and most fans have never heard it. But those who own that rare screener tape know one thing. Sometimes, even when you think the scene is done, something else keeps talking. Some films leave a legacy through box office numbers. Others linger because something inside them refuses to fade. The First Power wasn't just about resurrection, it was a story that kept rewriting itself, even after the cameras stopped rolling. So which detail unsettled you the most? Which fact felt like coincidence, and which felt like a warning? Tell us below, and let us know. What other film should we exhume next?